Guys, how you doing? Well, I think this is going to be backwards, but let's see. Can you see it okay? Um, yeah, it probably looks backwards. Um, they just added this soda dispenser down here. Um, I can't really see it, um, but let's see if I can angle it better. You can see that. Okay, they added this soda dispenser. So the kitchen down here has a little treat. Uh, oh, excuse me. Mm. Okay, hi guys, how you doing? Well, you know what? Today we're gonna talk about a great man, a very good man, and a loving man. And I looked up to him with such revere and respect. And that man was my dad. Um, I think I think it's a good idea to talk about my dad and his success and the legacy that I want to pass on to my future family, whenever that happens. Okay. But I at least want to document on the record about my dad. Okay. Excuse me. As I said in a previous video, my dad was born in the Bronx. And he was a prodigy. I mean, when you know early on what you see so clearly and you could understand so clearly at such a young age, like my dad did, uh, you just have to look at him with complete and total awe, you know. He knew when he was a youngster that he loved sound recording. And that was his hobby, that was his passion of sound recording. My passion, of course, oh my goodness, was signs and, and 60 millimeter film. Film, actually, you know. I loved having that control of watching what I want to watch whenever I want to watch it and not be at the mercy of a network. Okay, they didn't have cable back in those days. They had networks. And the networks control what you see on TV. Okay? And so I learned, as a preteen, I guess, that I could control what I watch. And with my records, I could control what I listen to. I'm not at the mercy of a radio station that plays whatever the station wants to play and make us listen to. I can listen to whatever I want to listen to, whenever I want to listen to. And that was the great thing about my record collection. That was the great thing about my film collection. Same thing with my tape collection. And now, my dad, he was very, very big on audio recording. And just like I have my favorite hobbies, and I have my favorite collections, my dad's favorite collection was sound effects. Sound effects. That was his favorite hobby. Just like my favorite hobby is film, records, diecast, cars and airplanes, um, um, you know, and so forth, you know. So that was his passion. He loved sound effects. And he would make up reels reel-to-reel tape of sound effects, and there was at one point that he bought this 125 volume reel-to-reel set of sound effects from Sound Ideas, which I think came from Canada. And he bought them and placed it in his studio. Now, he knew that that's what he wanted to do. He wanted to work in sound. He knew his passion was sound recording. So, just like I have my projector, my jukebox, that was another hobby and passion, was jukeboxes, okay? That was my love. That was my passion, was jukeboxes and jukebox title strips. His was sound recording and sound effects. And he created a little mini recording studio in his bedroom. And the story goes, and this is what I was told, and I'm just passing it along, that if there's any correction, anything I have wrong, please tell me about it. And let me know, and I will correct it. Okay. One day, my grandfather, his father, from what I remember being told, hated Dad's passion for sound recording, and hated that there was a little mini recording studio in his bedroom. So one day when my dad was at school, and this is what I heard, okay, Grandpa Mac, his father, went into his bedroom and destroyed every piece of equipment that he had in his bedroom. And my dad was a fighter. And my dad said, that ain't going to stop me. I'm going to build it back up again. And many years later, soon before his father, Grandpa Mac, were to pass away, and he visited us, and Dad brought him to the studio and tried to show him how much of a success he was with his sound recording. And from what I remember hearing, Grandpa Mac was not impressed. He just, and that devastated my dad, I think. So I think that might have been a little rift that Dad had with his father. But now, Dad had the same attitude toward my film collection, but, he didn't go to the extent that Grandpa Mac did with my dad's little recording studio in his bedroom, because as a teen, my dad, that is, he had a little movie collection of his own. He had a projector. Oh my God, it was a Keystone silent 60 millimeter projector. And when I became his age, the same age that he was when he got his projector, and his short films, mostly from Castle Films. And I think there was a picture reels, and I think there was also I forget the name of the other company. But anyway, he had these. And so he passed along to me. And so he thought that he outgrew his film collection. And he was expecting me to do the same. And one day, years later, he noticed that not only did I not outgrow my film collection grew. It bloomed. It blossomed. I had over 300 films. And at one point, he was very disappointed that I didn't give up my collection. So he had his film collection. Now, he met my mom in high school, I believe, and from what I understand, they got married soon after my mother graduated. And now, in 1957, he wanted to open his own recording studio. Now, I don't know how they came up with the name Regent Sound. Okay. And Regent Sound Studios was almost like a fifth member of the family. It was very cozy, especially when my dad would let me come to the studio. And he was doing sound, he was doing music hit songs at the time. And so there was a lathe machine that cut discs to be played on the turntable. And there would be, quote unquote, rejects of discs, because he would record the music and then he would cut the discs, send it to, I guess, the label, whether it's CBS or whether it's Atlantic, or whatever, and they would play it. But then there would be some discs that were not pristine and perfect, and he brought those home to me. Now, the funny thing was, there was no labels on it, so I did not know the artist, I did not know the name of the song, and I pretty much made my own names for it. While I was at the studio, and I was a kid, I went into Studio A, sat at the piano, and I don't know how I got my dad to do it, but he started recording the song I was singing, and it was called I Obey. And the song would go, I obey. Now, remember, I was a kid then. I was a little boy. So, I obey now. Now is not the time. Now I know to rhyme. Now is I obey. And that's all I remember from that song. And it was cut onto a lathe disc. I brought it home and I could play it. Also, my sister was also at the studio at some point, and they recorded something that she was singing. And she sung 2 songs. And I remember her saying, "This is a recording by Daddy Liftin." And I'm singing the Mexican song. And it's from Daddy Liftin, who made this recording. And the sound. Now, I don't remember the song, but I'll never forget that little speech my little sister, or bigger sister I should say, right, said between the 2 songs. So it was like a playhouse for us. And so it became a 5th member of the family. Now, but I'm jumping ahead here. When my dad opened his recording studio, he didn't have all the money he needed to open that studio. And so he had a partner. And the partner also had money to invest in Regent Sound Studios. But even between the 2 of them, it was still not enough to open the studio. So they talked with the landlord of the building at 25 West 56th Street, which also had an entrance on 57th Street also. And what that landlord did was he put up the rest of his money to open up the studio. But him being the landlord, he was the silent partner. He was the silent partner. And it was all loaned out to my dad. And the deal was that he would be reimbursed. Okay. So the agreement was, Bob, I'll lay out the rest of the money you need, but on the agreement that as your studio is making money, you pay me back the money I lent out. Okay. So that was the deal. And regularly, my dad and his partner paid his silent partner, the landlord of the building, money that he had laid out. And as soon as my dad paid him back in full, okay, he basically, in other words, bought his share of the business. And so now that the landlord is not the silent partner anymore, he's now officially the landlord only. Okay, now it's just the two of them, my dad and his partner. And I don't know, and I don't think my dad told me if there was any issues or problems between the two of them. But my dad wanted to fully and completely and totally own Regent Sound Studios himself without any partner. He wanted full control of the studio. And so he bought his partner out. And so now my dad had full ownership of the studio, and it was basically his baby. And I think, if I remember correctly, it was around 1982. In 1970, let me back up a bit, okay? In 1975, or even I'll go further back from that. In 1959, okay, let's do the timeline right here. Okay, in 1959, my mom was pregnant with my sister, and my dad would go to work, and he had the Flamingos in the studio. And the Flamingos was in the middle of recording the big hit, I Only Have Eyes for You. And so he would do this recording. And Dad knew that Mom would give birth at any time. And so he instructed Mom and the girl at the desk, if Mom goes into the hospital, to call the studio immediately and let my dad know. And Regent's number I will never forget. It's ingrained in here. It's useless information. Circle 52630. 212 circle 52630. That was the phone number of the studio. That number is completely and totally useless, but I still remember it. I still remember it. So one day, Dad got the call. It was forwarded through the to the control room. Bob, your wife is heading toward the hospital. She's going to deliver. At that point, my dad went on the intercom and said, "Guys, I got the word. My wife is going to the hospital. She's going to give birth. I can't continue. I have to be with her." And the guys said to my father, "Go, Bob, go. Go with your wife. Your wife needs you. We can finish this another time. But go to your wife. Okay, it's fine. It's okay. Go to your wife." And so Dad went home, and he instructed his staff to take care of everybody while he was gone. He went to the hospital. Mom gave birth to my sister, and that song, I Only Have Eyes for You by the Flamingos, became my sister's existential song, because my dad was in the middle of recording it when she was born. And because of the situation, when my sister was 1 year old, the Flamingos recorded a happy birthday song to my sister. It was cut onto a laser disc, which Dad brought home and played for Mom, you know, on her first birthday. Um, then I'd say about almost 11 years later, The Looking Glass, led by Elliot Lurie, was going to be recording their album. And on the album was Brandy, You're a Fine Girl. Now, my dad knew that the song could be a big hit if it was recorded and arranged differently than the way Elliot Lurie wanted. And it was a big fight between them. Until finally Elliot Lurie relented and said, Bob, we'll do it your way. But if the song is not a big hit, then any music we do, you will have no part in it. You're going to have to do it my way. And my dad said, that's a deal. So my dad was very involved in the song's climb on the Billboard Hot 100. And the song was climbing up the Billboard Hot 100. And he was watching it every week. And it was going up, 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 up. And by the time it was about to enter the top 10, was also the same time that Gilbert O'Sullivan's song, Alone Again Naturally, was also making a huge climb up the Hot 100. And because of that, and this is where Dad had participated, I guess, in competition with another song. Okay, so he hated Alone Again Naturally. He hated Gilbert O'Sullivan because he was afraid that Alone Again Naturally by Gilbert O'Sullivan would keep the song that my father felt was a huge hit from hitting number one on the Billboard Hot 100. And the funny thing is that Alone Again Naturally by Gilbert O'Sullivan stayed at the number one spot for more than a week. And Brandy, You're a Fine Girl was at number 2. And my dad was sweating bullets. And he was panicking. He says, come on, Brandy, come on. You could hit number 1. I know you can hit number 1. And for 1 week, and 1 week only, Brandy, You're a Fine Girl hit number 1. Alone Again Naturally dipped to number 2. And then when Brandy, You're a Fine Girl spent its week at number 1, it went down to number 2. Gilbert O'Sullivan's Alone Again Naturally went back up to number 1 for another couple of weeks, I think. And then, of course, Brandy started going down the chart. And my father was elated. He knew it. He knew it was a big hit. And so he felt vindicated. And so Elliot Lurie kept his part of the bargain. Okay, Bob, we'll record all my music the way you want. Unfortunately, the next song they released was Jimmy Loves Marianne, no relation to me, of course. It didn't do well. It didn't do well then. Looking Glass just ended. They, in essence, became a one-hit wonder, you know. Elliot Lurie broke up Looking Glass around 73, 74, something like that. In 1975, Elliot Lurie went on his own as a solo artist, but he could not capture what he did with Looking Glass. So my dad was so proud of Brandy, You're a Fine Girl. He even has label credit as producer, because basically he was a producer and as well as recording engineer, because he produced that song to make it sound the way it does. And so he has label credit. So anybody who can look up on Google under Looking Glass Brandy and look under images, you'll see a label on Epic Records with my dad, Bob Liftin, as recording engineer on the record. Okay. Now, in 1975. Um, he saw that the music, um, he saw that the music business was changing, and to the point where um, he had to get out. He had to get out of it. And so um, he would return all the masters back to their clients. Anybody else who he was unable to reach or didn't want the master anymore, he instructed me and somebody else to destroy the tapes, just to clear out the inventory. And he sold the lathe machine. Of course, I had a lot of fun on the lathe machine, taking my recordings that I did and put them on lathe discs. You know. So okay. They're about to have a meeting in that room, so I can't continue in there. But I'm going to continue this way if I can. Okay. So he decided to change from recording hit songs to record music for TV. And that was basically what he was going to do at that point. And somewhere along the line, I guess he met Elliot Lawrence, and Elliot Lawrence became Regent Sound's #1 client. And when I started getting involved, Dad was already doing music for soap operas. And when I started working there, I first did deliveries, and then I was taught how to work in the dupe room. Okay. And the dupe room engineer had many duties, many responsibilities, and many jobs to do. And so now the music mostly would be for soap operas. So what they would do is they would record on a multi-track, which was a 2-inch tape that had 24 tracks on it. And each track had a microphone input. So every instrument had a microphone. Or even, there was no singing, I don't think. It was mostly instrumentals. Okay? So at the drum set, there would be maybe 1 or 2 mics. At this stand, there's a mic. At the piano, there's a mic. At this place, there's a mic. And each microphone would be plugged in into the bay, into the jack bay. And then on the inside of the control room, there would be cables that would take each jack, okay, into the mixer. Okay. And then the engineer, which mostly is my dad, he would sit at the console and he would mix the music. And it would appear, he would mix it on a 1/4-inch tape. Okay. And when he got all the scores on the tape, then I would then make cues out of them. In other words, I would do some editing where I splice a little 1K tone on. He would mix it all on one track, leaving the other track empty, because it would be eventually transferred into a broadcast card, which only reads or plays from one track. The other track would have a 1K tone beep that I cut to about 3 inches, and that would be a boop or whatever, and the player would read that to stop the tape. So it's all queued up. So the next time you want music to start at that point, all you gotta do, put the cartridge in the player, hit the start button, and it would start playing. So it started when you wanted to. So at the time, there was lots and lots of soap operas out there. There was As the World Turns, Guiding Light, Search for Tomorrow, Edge of Night, No General Hospital. No, I don't think it was Days of Our Lives. I don't think he did that. But, or General Hospital, or Ryan's Children, or any of those soap operas. It was mainly Guiding Light, Edge of Night, Search for Tomorrow, As the World Turns. Those were the soap operas that my dad would do music for. And so that was basically it. And in 1984, now around 82 or so, thanks. Around 82 or so, my dad, it was at that point in 82 that he had paid off his silent partner. And as soon as the silent partner was paid in full, he raised the rent of the studio. He raised the rent of the studio. And so my dad basically said, he thought, if I pay this much rent for the amount of work that I am putting forth, I'm going to lose money. So he went looking for another location. And he found at 1619 Broadway, on the corner of 49th and Broadway, right above Colony Records on the second floor, there was an open space that was looking for a tenant. So my dad looked into it, made inquiries, asked about it, and he learned that it had 4 studios, and at 25 West 56th Street, there was only 2 studios. So now he's got 2 additional studios for more jobs per day. Okay, so he can double his output for the same rate, for the same rent. So he said, if I have to pay this amount of money for rent, and there's another place that asks the same amount for rent, but has 2 additional studios, which means 2 more revenues of income, I'd rather go there. And so that's what my dad did. He closed up shop. He moved everything from 25 West 56th Street and moved to 1619 Broadway. And it was a nice building. It was very, very elegant and nice. And to, in essence, move forward into a new era of Regent Sound Studios, he changed the logo of Regent Sound. He changed the font used. Okay. And it was a very dignified logo. I loved the original logo because that was what I grew up with. But the new logo and the new font for Regent Sound Studios Inc. was very elegant and very handsome. It was a nice change, and I liked it. And so we opened up Regent Sound over at 1619 Broadway. And the soap operas continued. And then when we moved, MTV, which had just launched onto cable, I think the year before, they then brought the music videos to Regent Sound with matching audio, and there were 2 engineers Because when I started there, I went from delivery person to the dupe room. And Bob Donilon, who was the dupe room engineer, he he trained me on the dupe room and showed me how to do it. And then he joined his friend and co-worker, Grant Maxwell, as the two engineers that were going to work on the MTV videos. And when times got slow in the dupe room, and I would just walk into Studio B, and I would say hi to Grant and Bob, and I would just sit in the chair and just watch them work. And it was there that I saw certain videos for the very first time. And they would mix the audio, and what would happen is they would feed the matching audio to the console. And then what they were going to do is they were going to redirect that new mix onto the videotape so that the video sounded better than the original audio that was on the videotape. So I would see certain videos for the first time. And I would see them so much that I got into them, and I liked them. And you heard it, I didn't. Okay. And if you look on my playlists, you will see a playlist where I put all the videos that I first saw at Regent Sound in that playlist. So I'm here in the gym, as you could tell, okay, and I'm about to work out on the hand bike. So I will stop here, and I will continue the story because it's a very good story. And I'll continue with part 2. This is part 1. And I will continue with part 2 of the story of my father, Bob Liftin. Okay. So take care, and I'll see you soon. Okay. Thanks for watching.